Voice of Africa. The story of resurgent and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Zimbabwe is making strides in poverty reduction. This is a statement made by the country's president, Emmerson Mnangagwa. Good evening, I'm Samia Mohammed, and this is Pulse of Africa's Evening News. Stay with us for more stories shaping Africa and beyond. First, President Mnangagwa says Zimbabwe is making strides in poverty reduction. President Emmerson Mnangagwa is in Doha, Qatar for the Second World Summit for Social Development, which is focusing on ensuring people remain at the heart of sustainable development. The summit, which is being convened at the head of state level, comes 30 years after the first one, which was convened in Copenhagen, Denmark. The Doha summit will reflect on the 10 commitments of the 1995 Copenhagen summit, with focus on social development. The commitments were based on eradicating absolute poverty by target date set by each country, increasing resources allocated to social development, achieving equality and equity between women and men, and supporting full employment as a basic policy goal among other objectives. The second summit is set to run from November 4 to November 6 to accelerate action on poverty eradication, promote of full employment and decent work, as well as address persistent gaps and reaffirm global commitment to social development. More than 8,000 delegates drawn from United Nations member states are expected to attend the summit. Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa is attending this global event. He also delivered speech. In his address, President Emmerson Mnangagwa says Zimbabwe was made headway toward reducing poverty and improving access to education, healthcare, and social protection. Delivering his statement at the ongoing World Summit for Social Development, the head of state brought attention to the drop in poverty levels from 62% to 38.3%, according to the last survey. He also noted how government initiatives like the Basic Education Assistance Model have benefited over 1.5 million learners annually, including children with disabilities. As he focused on employment, President Mnangagwa said employment creation and decent work are central to Zimbabwe's development strategy. He highlighted that the National Employment Policy Framework and Decent Work Country Program promote enterprise development, skills training, and infrastructure investment. President Mnangagwa said that despite progress globally, over 1 billion people still live on multi-dimensional poverty, calling for the summit to urgently renew a global pact for inclusive development that matches rhetoric with tangible action and resources. As the world leaders meet in Doha, the focus is primarily on the eradication of poverty. Experts emphasize that safeguarding the climate is a legal obligation. Professor Makani Mbegwe, external counsel, advocate for AU on the International Court of Justice, noted that rights and obligations of African states in fighting global warming were just political objectives and optional earlier, emphasizing that it is an obligation that should be reserved for sustainable development of the states.
We need to make sure that developed countries adopt proactive adaptation policies that allow our countries to build climate resilient societies. And in order to impose this type of obligations to more developed states, well, we need this principle of equity to be recognized as a legal principle. That this is not charity. It is not charity when developed states think about, for instance, putting funding, climate finance in adaptation. This is not charity. This is not a choice, it's an obligation in the name of a legal principle that is equity. And the court has recognized that.
Speaking at the post-advisory opinion workshop on the International Court of Justice, regardless states' obligation in respect of climate change, Professor Mbegwe emphasized that rights and obligations of states in combating global warming. The discussions focused on interpreting the International Court of Justice's opinions through an African lens and identifying pathways for its implementation across national and regional frameworks. He stressed for the need to differentiate countries' capabilities, interpretation, and application of climate obligation are vital principles for intergenerational equity to benefit the recent and future generations.
Africa has the youngest population. We have the youngest population. So we need to have a climate change regime that is oriented towards the needs, towards the concerns of that youth of today, but also those generations unborn.
Legal Counsel of the African Union, Professor Hajar Guldic, stressed that states have legal obligations, not just political commitments to protect the climate system for current and future generations, as the implications are profound on the continent, which only contributes 3.8% to the global emissions.
Africa's collective participation demonstrated regional solidarity and legal maturity, ensuring that the continent's vulnerabilities and priorities were visible in the court's deliberations. The African Union argued that climate obligations form part of the wider body of international law, including customary and human rights law. We also, as a team, stressed that states which cause significant harm to the climate system incur international responsibility, including obligations of cessation, non-repetition, and reparation.
The professor further stated that the continent has been the center of chaos resulting from drought, food insecurity, displacement, and loss of biodiversity, requiring states to abide by legal principles on fighting climate change. The court's opinion reinforces Africa's long-standing position that climate action must be promoted in justice, equity, and sharing responsibility. She added, the workshop brought together representatives from AU member states, legal councils, and climate law experts. It was learned. Memorial services for Raila to be held in Homa Bay. A memorial service for the late ODM party leader Raila Odinga is set to be held in Homa Bay town this week. ODM National Chairperson and Homa Bay Governor Galdis Wanga said the special memorial service will take place at the Raila Odinga Stadium on Wednesday to give residents who do not travel to Bondo an opportunity to pay their respects to the late former Prime Minister. However, residents have expressed mixed reaction to the event, with some terming it unnecessary while others welcomed it as a moment for healing. ODM members in Homa Bay said the memorial would give supporters who could not attend the Bondo service a chance to mourn their leader. Rangwe ODM Chairperson Caroline Owidi said party members were still grieving and needed a platform to find closure. This is the only opportunity they have to heal and move on. Let us all converge at the stadium to mourn our party leader, she said. Subanor's ODM Chairperson Narkiso Tuku added that Odinga's death was a great loss to many Kenyans and that the memorial was fitting. Those who will gather at the stadium are people who loved Odinga, he said. National Industry Day honors made in Morocco. Vision, the Ministry of Industry and Trade and the General Confederation of Moroccan Enterprises inaugurated the third edition of the National Industry Day in Rabat. The event embraces the theme Made in Morocco, a mark of quality, competitiveness, and a lever for integrated territorial development. It brings together government officials, private sector leaders, industrial innovators, and regional representatives to highlight Morocco's industrial potential and reaffirm its pursuit of economic sovereignty, job creation, and sustainable growth. Prime Minister Aziz Akanoch opened the two-day event by sharing the government's plan to make industry a key part of Morocco's economy. Today, we place our bet on the industrial sector so that it becomes the core of the employment battle, Akanoch declared. He said industrial jobs nearly doubled in 10 years, reaching 985,000 in 2024. In 1 year alone, 46,000 new jobs were added compared to just 7,000 the year before. This positive momentum is reflected in several indicators, he said. Industrial growth was 3.8% last year and is expected to hit 4.8% by the end of this year. He added that industrial exports rose by 64% since 2019. Manufacturing goods now make up to 87% of Morocco's exports, led by cars and aircraft parts. Morocco is now the leading producer of passenger cars in Africa and the top exporter of combustion engine vehicles to the EU, Akanu said proudly. Morocco's global ranking also improved. The country is now at 12th in the world for medium and high-tech industrial production, according to the the World's Intellectual Property Organization 2025 Innovation Index. ACANOJ outlined new steps to make Morocco more attractive to investors. These include updating the investment charter, changing how public contracts are handled, and simplifying taxes. We've injected liquidity directly into the productive fabric, reimbursed over 30 billion dirhams in VAT over the past 2 years, and stabilized electricity prices for industrial firms, he said. He added that the government covered 41 billion dirhams in energy costs between 2022 and 2024 to project industrial profits. ACANOJ also announced a green energy plan that will provide over 5 gigawatts of clean electricity to industry by 2030. Under His Majesty's leadership, we are building a clean energy value chain from raw materials to battery assembly, anchored in the Morocco's offer for green hydrogen, he explained. This plan shows Morocco's goal to lean in clean production and use energy transition as a strength for exports. Ethiopia and France keen to strengthen their bilateral cooperation. Ethiopia and France have expressed their keenness to strengthen their bilateral relations, mainly in economic cooperation. The two nations reaffirmed this during a bilateral meeting in Paris on the margins of the EU-Ethiopia Investment Conference. Ahmed Shide, Minister of Finance, held a constructive bilateral meeting with Nicolas Forestier, Minister Delegate for Foreign Trade and Economic Attractiveness of the French Republic. According to the ministry social media post, the discussions focused on strengthening the bilateral economic cooperation and promoting increased French investment in Ethiopia. Both sides reaffirmed the long-standing partnership and mutual commitment to advancing sustainable and inclusive growth. The dialogue covered a wide range of areas of shared interest, including industrial development, renewable energy, infrastructure, agro-processing, and digital transformation, it was noted. Minister Ahmed also expressed appreciation for France's continued support for the country's development efforts and its leadership as the chair of Ethiopia's Official Creditors Committee under the G20 Common Framework for Debt Treatment. He also acknowledged France's support through multilateral institutions such as the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. The minister further briefed the French delegation on the significant progress achieved under Ethiopia's homegrown economic reform agenda, which aims to build a resilient, competitive, and green economy. According to the minister, the government is working to enhance the investment climate and facilitate a greater international participation through transparent policies and institutional reforms. Ethiopia and France enjoy historic and multifaceted relationship grounded in mutual respect and cooperation, stated Ahmed. Our government highly values France's continued engagement and looks forward to deepening economic ties that support Ethiopia's sustainable development aspirations. Now to business news. Africa will need up to $100 billion to implement its new agricultural strategy and action plan aimed at transforming food systems across the continent between 2026 and 2035. This ambitious financial requirement was highlighted during the 21st Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program Partnership Platform and the 16th Africa Day for Food and Nutrition Security held from October 29 to 31st in Kigali. The Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program Partnership Platform Strategy and Action Plan, endorsed by the African Union at the Extraordinary Summit in Kampala in January 2025, builds on 2 decades of progress in agricultural development, poverty reduction, and food security. The accompanying Kampala Declaration outlines a 10-year roadmap with 6 core commitments and 35 targeted interventions to build resilient and sustainable agri-food systems. During the Kigali Forum, the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa reaffirmed its support for African governments and institutions, emphasizing the need to move from policy commitments to coordinated delivery rooted in African priorities and leadership. Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa Vice President for Technical Expertise Jonathan stated, the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program Partnership Platform is where partners align on what we deliver together. Our role is to support the African Union Commission and African Union Development Agency, New Partnership for Africa's Development, in ensuring partner coherence and focus on key priorities such as food corridors, value chain development, and seed system commercialization. Finally, Germany has pledged €65 million to support Ghana's development cooperation in youth employment, renewable energy and technical training. The announcement was made by the President of the Federal Republic of Germany, Mr. Frank-Walter Steinmeier, during a joint press briefing with President John Dramani Mahama at Jubilee House in Accra on Monday, November 3, 2025. Mr. Steinmeier, speaking through an interpreter, the German President said the pledge is subject to approval by the German Parliament, the Bundestag, as part of Germany's long-standing partnership with Ghana in sustainable development. We have been able to bring food tidings today. Germany will again commit more than €65 million to Ghana in the framework of our development cooperation, Mr. Steinmeier said. The details will be negotiated before the end of this month. President Mahama described Germany as steadfast and reliable partner, noting that the new pledge reflects a shared interest in promoting youth empowerment, renewable energy and digital transformation under Ghana's Resetting Ghana agenda. He said Ghana will continue to provide a conducive environment for German private sector investment, especially under the African Continental Free Trade Area headquartered in Accra. Mr. Steinmeier's 3-day state visit continues with meeting with young IT innovators in Accra and a visit to the Ashanti region to inspect Ghana-German cooperation projects in technical and vocational education and training. Let's take a look at the current forecasts and what conditions to expect across the region. That's all from Post Africa News for the hour. Thank you for joining us and stay tuned for more updates from Africa.
Africa we want.
Hello and welcome viewers. The Voice of the Continent Rising, where we bring you the stories, the dreams and the change makers stepping to the African we want. Today we explore a story of innovation, use and transformation. A story rooted in the Agenda 2063, the African Union vision for a prosperous, united and self-reliant continent. Africa is the youngest continent on the earth, with full of energy and creativity. From Nairobi to Lagos, from Gaborone to Accra, young Africans are now waiting for the future. They are building it right now. In this episode, we'll hear from inspiring voices, young leaders, innovators, and visionaries, and from African Union leaders who believe that innovation is at the heart of our development. Together, they are redefining Africa's story, creating opportunities and shaping a future where no one is left behind. So stay inspired and journey with us into the minds and mission of Africa's brightest change makers as we bring you the African we want.
Without young people, Agenda 2063 is just a dream.
Innovation is at the heart of our journey for development.
Africa's time is now.
What is really needed is the resources. That's all. Youth need enough training. They need grants.
Africa stands at a defining moment in its history, a continent bursting with energy, creativity and youthful ambition. With over 1.4 billion people, more than 60% under the age of 25. Africa is not just the youngest continent on earth, it is the most promising. From bustling innovation hubs in Nairobi and Lagos to digital entrepreneurs in Accra, Kigali, and Gaborone, young Africans are shaping a new narrative, one grounded in innovation, resilience, and vision. Yet, for far too long, Africa's potential has been underestimated, both by the world and at times from within. The Agenda 2063 of the African Union, the Africa we want, envisions a prosperous, inclusive, and a self-reliant continent. But this vision cannot be achieved without a heartbeat of Africa, its youth. As we explore this journey, we meet young leaders, innovators, and visionaries who are not just dreaming of the Africa we want, they are building it, one innovation, one idea, and one action at a time. In an exclusive interview with POA, Nikosingifil Nishanges, a passionate young leader and digital strategist, emphasized the indispensable role of young people in driving Africa's transformation. Without young people, Agenda 2063 is just a dream, she said firmly. We are the engine, the innovators, the energy that can turn words into action. Her message is simple but profound. Africa's youth are ready. They just need the opportunity to lead. Young people are waiting. We just need the classes, the encouragement, the resources, and the opportunity to be in the room when decisions are being made. Nishanges represents a growing generation of young Africans demanding a seat at the table. In Botswana, Wintifile Kankore, founder and director of the Best Hive Academy, says youth need proper training, grants, and funding to realize their visions. Kankore explains, if our leaders invest in youth-led innovation, we can create real change, not tomorrow, but today. Innovation as a catalyst for change.
With Agenda 2063, I think it's important for it to not only be integrated into African ideology, but to be entrenched in what young people believe in today. So without young people, Agenda 2063 is just a dream. So we do need to be fully involved in the process, participating in forums, platforms, as well as initiatives that involve pushing the agenda. There's many other aspects supporting women, youth, gender, and also tech within Agenda 2063. And what I believe our community and our community of Africa can do in helping young people get involved in Agenda 2063 is going back to my previous point of involvement, participation, and access, as well as awareness to everyone that is below, according to the African Union, below the age of 35, and getting them fully involved in actually being active participants and active African citizens in pushing Agenda 2063 in their own capacities, and more specifically with your AI and tech. I think it's good in its way that it helps young people also be more having access to information, which is very important, actually knowing the Africa we want.
What is really needed is the resources. That's all. Youth need they need enough training. They need grants. They need money to be able to do what it is that they're hoping to do for the continent. We have so many social entrepreneurs out there who are not just doing what they're doing because they want to make money. They want to make social impact, because we have seen how we are faced with a lot of problems in our different countries. There's poverty, there's unemployment, there are people living with disability who are excluded. So for us to be able to solve those problems, we need resources. So our leaders need to look into investing so much into those innovations that the youth are coming up with, so that we can be able to make the change that we are hoping to see in our continent. Because I'm one of the belief that I am the change that I want to see in my country, and I am the change that I want to see in my continent. I'm not supposed to wait for someone else to come and do that change. So for me to be able to do that change, like I said, I need resources. So if the resources are there, if the leaders can give us the resources, then we'll help them drive the initiatives that they also get to discuss in parliaments. So without resources, there is nothing really that we can do.
The African Union Commission recognizes this transformational potential. Ambassador Salma Malka Haddadi, Deputy Chair of the African Commission, highlights innovation as a critical driver of Africa's growth. Innovation is at the heart of our journey for development. The African Union is here to ensure that innovation becomes a true instrument for seizing Africa's many opportunities. The Africa Union's Agenda 2063 places science, technology and innovation at the center of its aspirations for a prosperous Africa. Initiatives like the African Continental Free Trade Area and Smart Africa Alliance are already connecting innovators across borders, making it easier for youth to share ideas, collaborate and scale impact.
Innovation is at the heart of our journey for development. It's the key, one of the most important keys of our development, and it has been mentioned in a very clear manner in Agenda 2063, but also of hope and trust in our innovators to be really in the driving seat of this journey for innovation. So the African Union Commission, myself, of course, are here to support our directors that champion this agenda, but also the youth all over the continent, so that really they give the true content of innovation as an instrument for development and for seizing the very many opportunities on the continent.
Here, Iposi Frida from Cameroon, a technology advocate and African Union Innovation Fellow, adds another crucial layer to this discussion: artificial intelligence and digital literacy. AI is not just a Western concept, it's an African opportunity, she says. Knowing the Africa we want means using technology to tell our own stories, solve our own problems, and build solutions that fit our realities. Iposi emphasizes how technology can democratize education, expand access to information, and connect rural communities to the digital economy, all of which are key pillars in achieving Agenda 2063. But she also stresses that innovation cannot thrive in isolation. Governments and policymakers must create environments where young innovators can flourish. Through supportive policies, funding, and inclusion in national decision-making, when youth are empowered by policy, innovation becomes unstoppable. Spotlight on young innovators.
Africa's time is now, but then there's still a lot of things that we need to be mindful of and take one step at a time. We can't measure our growth by the standards of the Western world. We need to measure our growth by our own resources, our own standards, our own realities. So to me, I say that we take it one day at a time. AI is not going anywhere. It's getting into Africa even more, and we already have the realities here. We just need to be patient with ourselves. We need to be able to nurture and groom the technologies that are already existing within the continent and be able to empower more young people to be innovative, to be curious, to be problem and solution oriented and driven, to be data driven as well, and then we are able to create an AI that is more African centric, that is more human centric, that is more people or African people centric.
From Nairobi, Nora Kimwati, co-founder of Zero Bionic, is redefining what biomedical innovation looks like in Africa. Her company designs affordable prosthetic limbs using locally sourced materials and 3D printing technology, blending compassion with high-tech creativity. We're not waiting for others to build solutions for us. We're building for ourselves, by ourselves, she says.
For us, we are, especially our mantra is build for Africa, by Africa, for Africa. So we started in Kenya, however, we've been moving to various countries across Africa, in Nigeria, South Africa. We are now in Ethiopia, among others. So we are working towards building the largest sign language African data set, because we did realize that when it comes to sign language for Africa, we are at a very low bar. Mostly we use ASL, that is American Sign Language, and that is why we are working towards ensuring that we lay a foundation for any other person who would want to build on top of the African Sign Language dataset, for them to, continue with this kind of inclusive innovation when it comes to assistive technology. So for us, it's not just about building for Kenya, it's about building for other countries at large.
Meanwhile, Iposi Fridandi, a tech fellow with the African Union Commission, is promoting cross-border collaboration among women in technology. Through fellowships and accelerator programs, she's helping young women build startups, mentor one another, and form networks that foster inclusive digital transformation. When women lead in technology, communities thrive, Ridandi notes. Our goal is to ensure that innovation in Africa is not just male-led or urban-centered. It's diverse, inclusive, and Pan-African. These innovators exemplify what Africa's youth are capable of when given the tools and trust to lead, rewriting Africa's narrative.
Young people are willing, we just need the platform, we just need the push, the encouragement, we just need enablers, we need allies, we need the government, policymakers to be able to bring us in the room and not just sit and create some of these policies for us. Let us be part and parcel of our own journey. Let us be part and parcel of creating the Africa that we want, because the Africa we want is for everyone. It's not for the old people, it's not only for government, it's equally for the youth.
A common thread across all these voices is the urgent need for Africa to tell its own story. For decades, international media has painted Africa through a narrow lens: poverty, conflict, and crisis. But young Africans are changing that narrative. They're celebrating success stories, from the rise of tech giants in Nairobi's Silicon Savannah to green energy pioneers in Rwanda and Morocco. We have belittled ourselves and our continent, Kakore reflects.
We have belittled ourselves. We have belittled our continent. But what I can tell you is the world out there, like you are saying, it's when it looks at Africa, it looks at those opportunities you are talking about. It looks at the riches that they wish they had. But we are not seeing it. So that's the problem. So if we as a continent would start seeing what is hidden inside of us and appreciate it more and realize how someone is just sitting there in the world and just thinking, oh word, like with their saliva dripping and saying, if I had that, I would do this and that and that. So we just need to talk about Africa more, because when you go out there, you realize that people in the other parts of the world, they have misinformation about us, that we are struggling, there's too much poverty, but when you come into Africa, you engage with Africans, you will know that is not true. So we need to talk about our continent more. We need to remove ourselves from always wanting to talk bad things about our continent and talk more positive things. Let's start talking more about things that makes our continent shine.
It's time we celebrate our potential, our achievements, and everything that makes us shine. Through music, film, fashion, and technology, Africa's youth are not just rewriting the story, they are reclaiming it. Social media campaigns like #AfricaRising, #BuildAfrica, and #TheAfricaWeWant are uniting young voices across the continent, amplifying success stories and reshaping global perceptions, building the Africa we want. The Africa envisioned in Agenda 2063 is bold, a continent that is prosperous, peaceful, united, and driven by its own citizens. But achieving it requires intentional investment in youth, leadership, innovation, and inclusive policy making. Programs like the African Union's GOGA platform are examples of this vision in action, mentoring young women in tech, providing access to digital skills, and funding startups that address community challenges. As Nishanges emphasizes, introducing these opportunities and encouraging young women to apply is crucial. The younger people we involve, the stronger our future becomes. Across Africa, mentorship programs, innovation labs, and youth forums are multiplying. Governments and the private sector are recognizing that youth are not just the future, they are the present driving force of progress. From the halls of the African Union to classrooms, labs, and creative studios across the continent, a new narrative is taking shape, one of confidence, creativity, and courage. Africa's time is not tomorrow, it is now. As Nishanges reminds us, we are the change we want to see. Let's nurture our talents, invest in our ideas, and shine a light on Africa's greatness, because the Africa we want starts with us.
To the young innovators in Africa, I believe that we should keep our ears on the ground regarding access to information. So there's another initiative from the AU, which is called Go Girl, which is also a seeding platform where young innovators propose, and then the African Union is able to actively participate in realizing their dreams and ambitions regarding tech. So I think for young innovators out there, I don't need to tell you twice, you know how the internet works, and I feel like we should use it to the best of our ability, and also to always be aware of what's going on, so we can also align our agenda with where the Africa we want is actually going. The young people can take in order to get into tech, and also just raising awareness with campaigns, opportunities, and other ways that young people can get into tech, either through the public sector or the private sector, I think is very important. And I cannot emphasize enough the importance of having young women in tech as well, as it was a previously male-dominated field. So I think also introducing these kinds of topics and encouraging young women to apply is a very important aspect of getting more young people motivated, enthusiastic, and involved in tech.
Through innovation, mentorship and bold leadership, Africa's youth are proving that the continent is ready not only to participate in the global future, but to lead it. The Africa we want is inclusive, empowered and unstoppable, and it is being built every day by young Africans who dare to dream big, think differently, and act boldly. This is Africa's moment. This is Africa's story. This is the Africa we want.
What we have here today is more than just stories. It is a movement, a continent awakening to its power, its creativity and limitless potential. From the classroom of Botswana to the tech lab of Kenya and Cameroon, young Africans are innovating, leading, and redefining what is possible. They are reminding us that Africa's time is not tomorrow, it is now. Thank you for watching and for being part of this journey, and stay connected with the stories that celebrate Africa's innovation, resilience, and youth leadership.
The Africa we want.